Okay, uh, we're up to Tzaddik Aleph. We're starting from Tzaddik Amid Beis. We just did a Mishnah about Kadim. Again, the whole parak is what comes first. So now the Gemara is going to clear the following shaila. Boilahu Tader umikudish. You have something that is more tader and something that's more mikudish. What would an example of this be? Rashi says you have the carbon tamid, which is tader, and the carbon chatas, which is more choshev, which is more kaddish. It's more kaddish. So which would you bring first? Again, that's the Gemara Shaila. Taisus has a problem with that because we say the tamid always comes first. The tamid always comes first. Therefore, he agrees with Rashi's second pshat, where you have a musaf of Rosh Chodesh and a para Eda. So a musaf of Rosh Chodesh is tadir vis-a-vis the para of the Eda. And the question will be in front of us, do you go ahead and bring the musaf Rosh Chodesh because it's tadir, or do you bring the para Helen Dava because it's Chodesh? So let's say, again, you have a musaf of Rosh Chodesh, which is tadir, and you have a para Helen Dava, which is para Helen Dava, which is a Kaddish. Which would come first? That's the Gemara Shaila. Tadam Mekudesh Ezem Mehem Koidem. Tada Koidem Mishum to Tadir. Aidilma Mekudesh Koidem the Kaddish. That's an interesting Shaila. Toshma. Tamid bin Koidem and Musafim. Right? The Mishnah said that the carbon Tamid comes before the carbon Musaf. The carbon Tamid comes before the carbon Musaf. Bi'afagav Amid Aleph. Bi'afagav the Musafim Kadishi. Right? Even though what? The Musaf is Kaddish. So where are we speaking about? We're speaking at Shabbos. We're speaking at Shabbos, and this musaf is brought as a result of Shabbos. The carbon tamid is brought every day. Okay? The carbon tamid is... So now, the Gemara's Havamina is that the musaf of Shabbos is more kaddish than the tadira of the carbon tamid. Yes? So let's be paishet the shaila that tadir comes before kodesh. Because after all, the tamid, which is more tadir, is coming before the musaf, which is Shabbosdik. Good? Right? If you look at Rashi, Rashi says, V'afa gav the musafim kedishi, musafim shem Shabbos aleha. That's the key word. The shem Shabbos comes on it, shem boyim b'chayva. They come in the chiyah of Shabbos, v'atamidim boyin af b'chayil, and tamidim come af b'chayil. So therefore, the Gemara, let's be paishet. The tamid that comes b'chayil, and it's tadir, comes before the musaf that comes on Shabbos. And for the Gemara, at the Shabbos lemusafin ahanoi lemit lo yahanoi. It's true that the carbon tamid is bought every single day, but the carbon tamid of Shabbos is different than the carbon tamid of every single day. It's also Shabbos dik. In other words, you can't be machalik and say the tamid, the musaf is Shabbos dik, and the tamid is choil, and there the whole reason is tadira. No, it's not. In other words, it's not a good tushtel to Ashayla. Say Zenim both Shabbos dik. They're both Shabbos, and Mela, they're both Kodesh. And since they're both Kaddish, that's not Ashayla. So we're going to have a similar dialogue through different cases, guys. You hear the way we're learning. Shabbos goes ahead and gives Kedusha to both. Memela, it's not a Shayla of Tadir in Kaddish. It's both Kaddish. And we're going to have a few examples of that. Tashma, Musvei Shabbos, Koidmin lemusvei Rosh Chodesh. The Musvei Shabbos comes before the Musaf of Rosh Chodesh. So, again, Rosh Chodesh is Mukdish on Shabbos because it's called a Moyed. Rashi tells us Rosh Chodesh is more Kodesh than Shabbos because it's called a Moyed. So the Chayra, we could push the Shaila that Shabbos, which is Tadir, comes before the more Kodesh, Rosh Chodesh. And for the Gemara, at the Rosh Chodesh Musafim Didei Ahani, the Musafim Shabbos La Ahani. In other words, it's the same thing. Rosh Chodesh also is Kaddish, and the Shabbos of the Musaf of Shabbos also is called Shabbos Dik. So they're both the same Kedusha. It's also Rosh Chodesh Dik. It'll be Rosh Chodesh Dik. In other words, the Rosh Chodesh is Chal also on the Musaf. So therefore, in other words, it's equal Kedusha. Once it's equal Kedusha, you can't be Paishat Shayla of Tadir versus Kaddish. Tashma. Musvei Rosh Chodesh, Koidmin lemusvei Rosh Hashanah. So Rosh Hashanah we assume is more Kaddish. Nonetheless, what we're going to go ahead and bring the Rosh Chodesh first because it's Tadir. The Gemara says Afagav the Rosh Chodesh Kitcha. part of that's the kasha, and for the Gemara, at Rosh Hashanah, Musaf the Deyahani, Musaf Rosh Chodesh Lehani. In other words, they both get the kedusha of Rosh Hashanah. The same teretz, the same. They have the same kedusha. The male can't be placed in the shaila of Tadir versus Kaddish. Tashma, davar acher. Now, another reason why Kiddush, what do you say first? Do you say Kiddush or you say Yayin? Famous machlokes between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. So if you look at Rashi, the Pesachim Taninula, the Karmi Beis Hillel, Mevarach al Yayin, V'akach Mevarach al Yayin. First you make the bracha on Yayin, and then you make the bracha on Kiddush. Shayayim gorim lekiddush shetaimar. Now that's so Yayin causes it to come. That's one reason. Since Yayin causes the Kiddush to come. A second reason is Tadir. Davar acher is Birchas HaYayin Tadira, U'Birchas HaYayim Eina Tadira. V'Tadish and Tadir Kaidem. Achav Gav, the Birchas HaYayim Kedisha. Even though the Birchas HaYayim is more Kaddish. Even though the Birchas HaYayim is more Kaddish. So we can push it as Shaila, that the Yayin, which is Tadir, comes before the bracha of Kiddush. Yes, guys? Again, what's a shaila? Does Tadir come before Kedusha or something more Kaddish or not? So we're saying that from Kiddush you can ascertain, that the Tadir comes first. Because after all, Kiddush is more Kaddish than Yayin, which is Chol. And Memela, you can be patient that Tadir comes from Kaddish. What's the answer? Yayin during Chol is Chol. Yayin on Shabbos is Kaddish v'Kaddish. It's the same Kedusha. So you can't be patient the Shaila. The Yayin also, the bracha of Bari Priya Gofen on, if you make it during the week, it's one bracha. If you make the bracha Bari Priya Gofen on Shabbos, is saying a Mekudish to Yayin. The Mela, it's the same thing. It's Kaddish v'Kaddish, and it's not Tadir and Kaddish. Yes, Nasan.
The word of Yachna has him Sachem?
But no, I think it's regular. This is regular. I think this is regular.
Yayin Kiddush, because Yayin brings
yeah. I mean, Yachna is always like that.
Bars.
Yeah. Hey, nothing on me. Okay, so l'chayra atu Shabbos the birchas hayoyim ahani, that it gives it special kedusha lebirchas hayayin lo yahani. So in the Mela, it's the same thing. It's kaddish for kaddish. It's not tadav and kaddish. Tashma, again, the second word line. Dam Rabbi Yochanan, halacha. I feel like we're in mamish going through Mayid. Hichlas brachas. Dam Rabbi Yochanan, halacha mispal adam shel mincha yakach shel musaf. It's Shabbos. You're supposed to say musaf before, right? Mincha comes mincha, right? Comes my mincha. They're both in front of you. You're going to say what mincha first. The svara being that the mincha is tadir and musaf is not. So tadir and tadir kaidem. Musaf is more kaddishtik than mincha, which is said b'chayil. So you have the same teretz. At the Shabbos, the tfilas musafim nahani, the tfilas mincha lo yahani. The mincha of Shabbos has the kedusha of Shabbos. Memela is the same teretz, right? So far the Gemara has been easy. The Gemara is right. It's been very easy. Here it gets a little more difficult. But again, we're trying to go ahead and ascertain if that comes first. The kedusha before. Okay, Tashma. I'm quoting our Mishnah. Shlomim shel amash. Let's go with Rashi's girsa that he had in the Mishnah. We had a machlokes yesterday, but the girsa was Shlomim shel amash. You brought a shlomim, and you bought it on Sunday. It's hanging around on Monday. It's Monday, and you have the shlomim there. And now chatas v'ashim shel yoim, and you have a chatas v'ashim that are brought now on Monday. Which comes first? So we said Shlomim shel amash kaidmin. The shlomim that was brought on Sunday and is waiting around, kaidmin comes before what? Okay, so that comes first. Ha'idi v'idi diyoim. If they were both the same day, chatas v'asham kadme. If they both came the same day, they would be. In other words, the reason why the shlomim is brought first is because it came on Sunday. But if they came both on the same day, on Monday, then the chatas v'asham would come before. Now, what's more kaddish, guys? What's more kaddish, a chatas or a shlomim? Chatas is kadsha kedoshim. What's more tadir, shlomim or chatas? Shlomim, because a shlomim is brought b'neder v'nedava. A chatas is only brought if a person does an aveira. An asham is only brought if a person does certain aveiras. But a shlomim can be brought what? Could be brought any time. The afagab the shlomim tadiri. even though the shlamim is tadir. Now, before we get to the Gemara Vaita, my chavrusa, my chavrusa of Shimon, he said to me, like, what's tadir? Does tadir mean it happens? Well, it's more common. It's the lashon. He didn't express it the way the Gemara is expressing it. Guys, do you have to bring a shlamim? Guys, do you have to bring a shlamim? No. Do you have to bring a carbon tamid? Yes. So you see, there's a innate difference between tadir and what we call matzoi. Tadir is something that has to occur. Matzoi is something common that commonly occurs more often, but it's not necessarily it has to happen. So you want to go ahead and say the following, that vis-a-vis shlamim versus chatas, that a shlamim is tadir, I'll tell you a shlamim is not tadir. I'll tell you shlamim is what we call matzoi. It doesn't have to happen. Now, of course, it does happen, and it's more common than a chatas, but you can't be paishit the shaila of where the tadir comes before kedusha. You can't be paishit the shaila of tadir comes before kedusha because this is not a case of tadir. Listen to the teretz. It says the Gemara, "V'afagav the shlamim tadira, amar Rava matzoi ka'amit." You say matzoi more common? Tadir kami boilan, matzoi like kami boilan. We're not discussing matzoi. We're discussing tadir. We're discussing something that has to occur, not something that's more commonly found. Matzoi is more commonly found. Guys, you hear the difference between tadir and matzoi? It's a geshmak achilik, yeah? It's a geshmak achilik. It doesn't mean the amount of times it happens. It means whether it has to happen or not. And even though shlamim probably happen very, very often, because people always want to bring the davos to the Beis HaMikdash, share a carbon with Hashem. Think about it. If we were alive, guys, you'd be able to bring a carbon. Think about you have a barbecue. Can you imagine that barbecue was Mishulchan Gavaya, that you shared something? HaKadosh Baruch Hu got the emurim and you got the good stuff. It's amazing. It's amazing what Hashem takes for himself, right? He takes the garbage stuff. He takes the fats and the kidneys and the seres hakoved, and we get the good stuff. Okay, anyway. So therefore, it doesn't have a bearing on the shiloh over here. It doesn't. The afagav the matzah kamit tadir kamit. Okay, so therefore, okay. Amalei Rav Huna Rabbi Yehuda l'Rabba. Now let's this. Atu matzah lav tadir. You want to say matzah is not like tadir? I'll show you they're equal. V'atanya oitzi es haPesach she'enoi tadir v'lei oitzi es hamila she'i tadira. Okay, eye contact. Mishnah in Krisus, the first Mishnah in Krisus, goes through the 36 Krisus. For every lav that carries with it a chiyuv of karis, if you go ahead and you're over on that lav, you have to bring a chatas. There are two mitzvahs that's a chiyuv karis that you don't bring a chatas. What are they? There are two mitzvahs I say. There's the mitzvah of Mila that one doesn't do, and the mitzvah of Pesach that one doesn't do. So the Gemara wants to know, the Gemara there is discussing why you don't bring a carbon chatas, being mevatel Mila, and being mevatel what? Being mevatel mitzvah say. So it gives a reasoning, and then it says, Oitzi es Pesach, I'll exclude Pesach, she'ena tadir, which isn't common. Oitzi es Mila, she tadura. Maybe I won't exclude a Mila, because what? Now, guys, is Mila tadir or Mila matzoi? It doesn't have to occur. It doesn't have to occur. It's matzoi, right? It's matzoi. It doesn't have to happen. It's matzoi. Yet, what are we calling it? We're calling it tadira. So you see that what? Matzah is also called tadira. So l'chayr, we can bring a raya from our Mishnah that when you have a shlomim and a chatos, and that even though the shlomim is matzoi, which is tadir, it's still the chatos, which is kaddish, precedes the tadir. That would be a good raya.
But it has to happen when the 50% of the time that it's a boy. It has to happen.
But again, it doesn't have to happen. You don't have to have a boy.
But if you have a boy, you have to make a bris
mitzvah. You just said if. That's the key word. You said if. Again, tadir. Every day when you're in the Beis HaMikdash, do you have to bring a carbon tamid?
Yes.
There's no if. If you have a boy, there's a mitzvah. But you don't have to have a boy. Again, it's very dakistic sometimes, the chilik, but tadir means it has to occur. It has to happen. You're making kiddush. You're benching. You have to bench. You don't have to do a mila. It's only in the situation where you have a boy, but that's not tadir. That's matzoi. Okay, so very geshmak. So right now, l'chayra, you have a raya. Again, just to get back our train of thought. In our shaila, where the kodesh comes before tadir, you wanted to bring a raya that the only reason the shlamim is bought because it came a day early, but if it came the same day, you bring the chatas first. I1 is matzoi, and now we're saying matzoi is tadir. So when you bring the chatas first, l'chayr, we have a raya that kedusha comes before tadira. That's what we want to say. The Gemara says no. Matzoi is tadira is tadira. When it says tadir by mila, my tadira b'mitzvahs. It doesn't mean that it's tadir in terms of occurrence. It means that it's repeated 13 times in lech lecha. It means the amount of times that it occurs. Tadir means often over here. That the amount of times it's stated, Pesach is stated by Mila in Parshas Lech Lecha, it says Lashon Mila, it says less than 13 times. So therefore, it's not equal to Matzoi. Matzoi is not equal to Mila, and therefore you can't bring a raya from Shlamim and Chatas. V'bayisema Mila legabe Pesach kita dedanya. This will be more. I think the Rabbi Avi will like this a little better. Okay, that if you look at see Rashi, that Mila legabe Pesach kita there. Kita dedanya. Go down a little bit. Shemetsuyehi harbe mi Pesach. Ava matzoi the Shlamim legabe matzoi the Chatas. Lav kediridami. If you're doing your statistics that Rabbi Avi was trying to do, you're going to find the Mila comes a lot more times than Korban Pesach. More often than Shlamim will come before Chatas. So, even if you're going to say that by Mila, it's Matzah is considered Tadir, it's because of the amount of times it happens. Shlamim, I'll never call Shlamim Tadir. I call it matzoi. You're equating matzoi by shlamim to matzoi by mila, and by mila we're calling it tadir. No comparison. The mela, it could be tadir by mila. It's not tadir by shlamim. It's matzoi, and it's not equal to shlamim. It's not equal to tadir. And the mela, you can't be paishet to shaila that a chatas will come before an ashram because kedusha comes before tadir because this is not tadir. It's not tadir. So we kept our eye on the ball. We're doing good, right? We kept our eye on the ball. And so far we won't push it.
Mila be tadir. How can we say that Mila is tadir? I don't understand.
You call it tadir vis-a-vis shlamim. In other words, Rabbi
Okay.
Vis-a-vis shlamim. That's what you wanted to say, that it's a raya that matzah is tadir from Mila. You can't be such a raya because it's the occurrence is what. Even if we call it tadir by Mila, we're not going to call it tadir by shlamim. Okay. Iboilahu, a new shaila. So you weren't placed with that shaila. A new shaila. Iboilahu. Tadir u'she'ena tadir. Now you're supposed to bring the tadir first. The kodim b'shochat l'she'enoi tadir. And you went and shechted the enoi tadir first. Mai. Mi amin and keeping the shachte makrav lay. Since you started, finish it. You shechted it, be makrav it. Aydilma, yov la'acher. Give it to another kayin. The memaris b'damai, who will stir its blood to ensure it doesn't coagulate. Ad makriv leil tadir, until you bring the tadir. V'had makriv v'shein tadir. So again, we know tadir v'shein tadir kaidem. So you have two karbanis, one comes before the other, and you go ahead and you bring the other first. Do you continue and finish the other, the eina tadir, or do you go back and say no? You go ahead and keep the eina tadir. You stir it up to make sure it doesn't coagulate. And then you bring the tadir first. That's the shaila. Guys, lamdish shaila. Rav Huna Misura from our Mishnah. Tashma. Shlomim shel amash. Again, what's the case? On Sunday, you brought a carbon shlomim, and now it's still around on Monday. Chatas v'asha shel yoim. And now you have the chatas v'asham today. So you got a Sunday shlomim on Monday, and you have a chatas on Monday. So what do you bring first? Shel amish koidim l'shel yoim. So the Sunday shlamim comes before the Monday chatas. Hadi yoim dumya da amash. But let's say if yoim would be similar to amash, meaning you would shecht the eina tadir. In this case, you would shecht the chatas. Right? So you shechted the shlamim. You would check the Ha the yoim dumya da amash. If you bought it the same day, you bought it the same day. Again, let me guys, what I told you now is not true. Let's go over it again. In a regular case, you're bringing a carbon shlamim from Sunday, it comes on Monday, and you're going ahead and you bring that first. Let's say you went ahead and you bought them the same day, but you did something that you shouldn't have done. You made the shlamim as if it was bought from Sunday. You shechted it on Monday. So they both bought on Monday. You should have brought the chatas first, but you shechted the shlamim first. Got it? Again, if it's a Sunday to Monday, it comes first. What you did was into a Sunday Monday. How do you make it a Sunday Monday? By shechting it, even though they both came on Monday. What's the halacha? The halacha is the chatas would come first. So what do you see? The tadir, the v'she'ena tadir, right? The one that you shouldn't have shechted the shlamim and you did. The tadir, the chatas, is going to come first. So let's be paisha the shaila that you don't finish the shlamim, but you stir the blood until you spritz it. I'll do it one more time, guys. You went ahead and you have a shlamim and a chatas. Which comes first? The chatas. But what you did was similar to what it would have been if the shlamim came on Sunday. What did you do? You gave it a priority because you shechted it first. So this is our shaila right now. You shechted it on Sunday. You shechted something you shouldn't have shechted. You should have had the chatas first, but you shechted the shlamim first. What's the halacha? The chatas takes precedent, and you're going to stir the shlamim. So let's be patient the shaila. That's what the Gemara says. The hechidami, the kodem shachte l'shlamim. You went and you shechted the shlamim first. Chatas v'osham kadme. The chatas v'osham come first. Says the Gemara, no, maybe that's not the diak. Dilmor, perhaps, shlamim da amash, v'chatas v'osham diyoim. Right? Now, what did you do? It's the shlamim from yesterday. It's the shlamim from yesterday, guys. Right? And you went ahead and you shecht, and therefore it was shechted, and then you went ahead and you shechted the chatas. And therefore, v'osham diyoim, hekim mishkachasla, the shachtinu l'travayu. Right? But you shechted both of them. So therefore, if you shechted both of them, then I'm going to bring the shlamim first. Avaloi shachtinu, the travayu. If I didn't shecht both of them, I only shechted the shlamim. Tiboilach, it's a shaila. Okay. So if I shechted both, guys, look at the first Rashi, the first word line. Hechidami, the shachtinu the travayu. Afagav the shachte lechatas acha shlamim. Even though you shechted it afterwards, ushneim oindim li zarek. Ashmi'inan the shlomim shel amash kodmu. That comes first. Okay, let's be more clearer. Let's be more clearer. Okay, guys, I'm getting it together as I speak. So just look at me and let's get it together. We want to know, Shaila, if something that shouldn't have happened first. What do you do? What do you do? The Ein Tadir came before the Tadir. What do you do? So I'm creating a case. I'm creating a case from a difficult case of our Mishnah. I'm creating a case of an Einoi Tadir before a Tadir. What's the creation of that case? The following. If I had a Sunday Shlamim on Monday, that comes first. What happens if I have a Monday Shlamim on a Monday Chatos? Then the Chatos comes first. What happens if I have I created a Sunday Shlamim? What did I do? I shechted it. What comes first? The chatas comes first. So we would be able to be poishit to shaila if that was the case. If I shechted the shlamim before I shechted the chatas, then I would be poishit to shaila. That's not what happened. What happened is I should have shechted the shlamim first because it's a Sunday. Guys, it's a Sunday. It comes on Monday. I should have bought it first. But you know what I did? I shechted both. Now, once you shechted both, guys, it's no longer a shaila. Guys, look at me. Once I shechted both, it's no longer a shaila, right? Because if I shechted both, it's not a shaila. I shechted the Ein Tadir before the Tadir. Now they're both in front of me. They're both in front of you. and the shlamim is a Sunday shlamim, of course the shlamim comes first. But you can't be paishet shaila that the shlamim should come, that the shlamim should wait for the chatas, because after all, you did something wrong. You shouldn't have shechted the chatas. So it's not a case of tadir she'ena tadir. There's no ena tadir over here. They're both tadir. So therefore, they're both about you did the wrong thing. In other words, this even though once you shechted it, it's still, since it was a Sunday carbon, it comes first. Therefore, you can't be paishet the shaila. Tashma. Davar acher, birchas hayoyim, tedira, ubirchas hayoyim eina tedira, v'tadish eina tadir tadir koydem. Now, what's more kaddish, guys? What comes first? What comes first? Yayin comes first, right? Yayin is tadir, and birchas hayoyim, and then you have what? It comes. It shows up. Comes birchas hayoyim. Comes yontif. It comes Shabbos. You have birchas. You have yayin. And now all of a sudden, pops in Shabbos, right? It pops in Shabbos. So what's the halacha? The halacha is that yayin comes first. Now, why don't we view yayin as what? As a tadir. And birchas hayoyim is ein a tadir. And l'chari, guys, what chiyuv came first? Yayin or kiddush? Guys, what came first? Yayin or kiddush? Kiddush. Came Shabbos, you had the din of kiddush. So then the kiddush came first. So that's like Eina Tadir before Tadir. And what are you doing? You're waiting and you're making kiddush, right? You're waiting and making kiddush. Okay. Let's see Rashi. About 5 lines down. Birchas hayayin tadira, Tadir koydem. Bi'apa gav, the she'ena Tadir kodem, even though the Eina Tadir came first. What was the Eina Tadir? The Eina Tadir was again, I threw in said kedusha. I didn't mean kedusha. I meant ein tadir. Even though the ein tadir is first, uba shekvayt kiddush hayoyim. So the ein tadir came first. V'dayin yayin lavoi, and the yayin didn't come yet. V'daimya the kodem shchita l'shein tadir bereisha. So it's a little reach over here. We want to say that the fact that the chiyuv of Shabbos came first, it's like the ein tadir came first. But yet you're making it wait to make the kiddush on yayin, right? You're making the kiddush which came first, which is the ein tadir, wait. You're not saying the bracha of kiddush first, even though it came first. So, guys, we're comparing Shabbos kiddush coming to shchita, that you shechted the ein tadir, and we're making it wait to do the yayin first. So let's be paishet the shaila tadir v'shein tadir. The ein tadir has to wait. Is that good? Is that good? One more time. We want to know you should have brought the tadir first, but you didn't. So if you shechted the ein tadir, what's the thing over here? The kiddush hayom came first. So the chiyuv of kiddush came first. So that's like the chiyuv of the shchita of the ein tadir. So therefore, if that comes first, you should continue. We should make kiddush and then say hagafen, right? Because you started with the kiddush; it came first. It's ein tadir. So go ahead and make the bracha on yayin. But we don't do that. We go ahead and we make it wait for the yayin to come first, so we can bring a raya to our shaila that if you shech the ein tadir, it's going to have to wait. You're going to have to stir the blood until you go ahead and do the shkita. That's the Gemara's comparison between the two. Says the Gemara, the kivin the hachanami kivin the asya command the shchita travayidami. It's not like it came before. Since the chiv is there for both, the mele it's like you shechted at the same time, and therefore, if you shechted at the same time, certainly the tadir comes first, as the shlamim did. Dam Rabbi Yochanan alacha. I skipped. Hachanami the kivin the asya command the shechted Tashma Dam Rabbi Yochanan. Halacha mispalul adam shel mincha v'yakach misal musaf. So the chari guys, the shel musaf is the ein tadir, and the mincha is the tadir, and nonetheless we're making it wait. That which came first, just like the chi of kiddush came first, the chi of musaf came first, right before mincha, and now we're putting mincha before. Hachanami kivin the matis man tefila kiman the shachti travayudam. It's like they're both at the same time, so you can't be pushed to the shaila. Amalei Rav Acha Berei Rav Ashi Ravina Shachtu Chaydim Chatzos. If you shech the carbon Pesach before Chatzos, pasal. Mifnei Shinema boy, it says Bein Rabayim, right? Bein Rabayim. Okay. Chaydim Tamid. If you shechted before the Tamid, then kasha. So if you shechted too early before Bein Rabayim, it's Shalei Bismanai. You should shech the carbon Tamid Beis Shal Bein Rabayim first, but you don't. You shechted what the Pesach first. So if you shechted before the Tamid, it's still kasha. But what should you do? So the Chara guys, the Chara is a very good shaila. What's more tadir? The carbon tamid. What's ain't a tadir is the Pesach. If I shech the Pesach before the tamid, I stir the blood of the Pesach till I do the tamid. So we can be poished at shaila tadir v'shein a tadir. You go ahead, put the ain't a tadir on the lake. Says Hachamayaskinon kigoin de kodam shachte l'tamid bereisha. You know what's speaking about over here? Einachinami. It's speaking that you shechted the tamid first, and then you shechted and then you shechted the Pesach, but you didn't do yet the zrika on the tamid. Einachinami. Had you done the shchita, had you not done the shchita yet, you'd have a good raya. It's speaking you shechted the tamid, and you shechted the but you didn't do the zrika yet on the tamid. You should have waited till after the zrika, and you didn't. So if you went ahead. So after the Pesach, right? So after the Pesach, you went ahead and you shechted the tamid before you had a chance to ask what you should do, and you asked only on the zrika. So what's the case? I don't know. I thought I had this cross. Anyway. It's not speaking where you shechted the carbon Pesach before you shechted the tamid. It's speaking where you shechted the tamid first, and then you shechted the Pesach, right? But you shechted the Pesach before you did the zrika on the damin. And now you went ahead, and now what do you do? So you don't do the zrika of the Pesach. Since you have the blood of the tamid there, you stir the blood of the tamid. So since I shechted the tamid, it's no longer ashayla, guys. Ashayla is you shechted the enoi tadir before the tadir. Over here, I shechted the tadir before. I shechted the tamid before. So this is no bearing on ashayla. Oh, you shechted the tamid already, and now you shechted the Pesach. No, that's not ashayla. You're not going to do the zrika on the Pesach. You're going to do the zrika on. Einachinami. Had you not shechted the tamid, and you would be posted that what you could do it and have a raya. But since I shechted the tamid already, there is no raya to ashayla, because therefore ashayla is where you shechted the enot tadir. Here you shechted the tadir first. Degenami diktani ad she yizrek adam. It doesn't say ad she yishchet. It says you wait ad she yizrek adam. For like a tani ad she yishchet yizrek adam. Shmam, you know that the shchita was done already, because it only says until yizrek. It doesn't say until you do shchita and tzrika. We said the kahanim they want to eat it any which way. Over kul and kahanim rishayim, they have a shay to eat it any which way. My taima amakra lemashcha. It says lemashcha legedula kederush amalachim eichlim lemashcha. So you could eat it. You could eat it broiled. You could eat it cooked, whichever which way you want to eat it. Lemashcha. Okay. Amrav Shimon. Imra'isi shemen shum ischalik ba'azara. If you see oil that's divided up in the azara, olive oil, and the kahanim are using it, ain't tzarich lishol mahu. You don't have to ask. I'll tell you where it came from. Elamoisa rikiki. It's the leftover of the rikikin. Guys, one of the minchas is called an afei sanor. The afei sanor, they would take oil, and it's like there's a lot of oil, and they would go ahead and they would anoint it, like they make a mark on it. So you had a lot of leftovers. So the leftovers are being eaten by the kahanim. So therefore, it's leftover from the rikikin of the afei tanor. Minchas Yisrael, provided it's a mincha of Yisrael. Put that together. Elamoisa rikikin minchas Yisrael. Or the like shemen shel mitzayra, we're familiar, right? The like shemen b'shayma, that right? You had a foloi, kain right hand, left hand, behind us. You had a lot of leftovers. That's where it's from. So either one or two things. It's either from the minchas afei tanor of Yisrael, or it's from what? Mitzayra. In Reisa Shemen Shu Nitain Al Gabi Ishim, if you see Shemen that it's on the fire, then Ein Tzarech Lishol Mahu El Moiser Kike Minchas Kahanim. Guys, the mincha of a kohen is totally burnt. There's no kamitza. The mincha of the kohen is totally burnt. So therefore, if you find it on the fire, it's probably the mincha of a shemen of a kohen, or minchas kohen Mashiach, and the minchas kohen Mashiach. So in other words, this is a mincha that they bring. However, Shem is not in Shemen. In other words, there's no Havamina that this is the Kamitza of a Shemen. Guys, if you can make a Nadav of Shemen, you'd have a third option. Besides being the Kahanos burning, or the Kohen Mashiach. Kohen Mashiach was the Chavitim of the Kohen Gadol. He brought half in the morning, half in the afternoon. There was a lot of leftover oil. So it's either the mincha of a kohen or it's the minchas kohen Mashiach, but it's not the kamitza wad of a mincha because there's no such animal. There is such an animal, and the Gemara is going to discuss the shita that minchas that you could go ahead and do kamitza on a mincha, that you do kamitza on a mincha. Amashmor. The different Rebbeinu Tam, according to the words of Rebbeinu Tam, that there's such a thing as the minchas nedava. Hamisnadev shemen. Someone makes a nedava of shemen. Koimtzai. You do kamitza, shirov nechalim, and the shirayim are eaten by the kahanim. My timer. What's the reason that there's such a thing as a minchas nedava? Amakra, the pasuk says, "Benefesh ki sakriv korban mincha Hashem." In Vayikra Beis pasuk Aleph, it says, "Benefesh ki sikrav korban mincha Hashem." It says korban. Now it could have just said "Benefesh ki sakriv mincha." Why do you have to say the word korban? Malamed shemisnad shemen, that you can make a nedava of shemen. And if you make a nadav of shemen, kimincha, change the gersa. Kimincha, it'll be like a korban mincha. Ma mincha kaimsa b'shira nechalim. Just like a mincha, the kimitza is the kaimetz and the shirayim are eaten. Af shemen kaimsa b'shira nechalim. So this is Reb Tarfon's raya. He has a pasuk, and therefore, if you see kahanim in the Beis Hamikdash eating, right, it must be that there's an adava too. Now the Tanakhama didn't hold to that. Guys, going back to our Mishnah, the Tanakhama did not mention the only two possibilities, fellas. Remember the possibilities? It's the Afei Tanner or it's like Shemen. It didn't say that it's the leftovers in the Dava. Because the Tanakhama argues on Reb Tarfon. Right? Says the Gemara, Amrav Zeira, Afananami Tanina, our Mishnah. Amrav Shimon, and Ra'isa Shemen Shemischalik Bazara, Iat Tzarech Lishol, Mahu, Ela Moiser Rikike Minchas Yisrael, V'loik Shemen Shal Mitzayra, She'em Misnadvin. Because you don't make a nedava. That's our Mishnah. Michal demand omen misnadvin. According to Reb Tarfon, who says you do mischalik. So we're going to add a third, fellas. Our Mishnah is stating the shita of the one who says you don't have a nedava. So you only had two things. You only had the afei saner left over or the loy left over. But obviously, like Reb Tarfon, that you do make a nedava, you have a third possibility. The third possibility, what was left over there was what? Was the nedava, the shirayim of the nedava, gishmak. Amalei Abaya Ema Seifa. I'll go ahead and bring you a Seifa. There's no such thing as an Adava. In Reisa Shemen Shenitin Al Gabi Ishim, if you see Shemen that was put on the Ishim, if you see Shemen that was put on the fire, Iyat Tzarech Lishol Mahu, it's either Moiser Kike Minchas Kahanim, or Minchas Koy Mashiach, Sheim Misnadvin Shemen, Mechlal Didman Yom Misnadvin, Kula Ishim. In other words, these two things. But the one who says that you do nedava, it's mashmer, it goes totally on the ishim. So we have machloikis. Late Reb Zera, you take a kamitza. Late Abaye, you don't take a kamitza. Late Abaye, the nedava is totally burnt. Late Reb Zera, it's a regular mincha. Again, how do you view a mincha as a shemen? According to Reb Zera, you view it as a regular mincha where you do kamitza and shraim lekahanim. According to Abaye, it's totally burnt. Even though Reb Tarfon says it is a nedava, but it's totally burnt. L'Abaye kasha reisha. Because it's mashma from the Reisha that there is Shirayim, like the Mandiyama makes in the Dava. But Reb Zeira Kosha Seifa. It's mashma the Mandiyama like the Dava, it's totally burnt. Right? So Bishleim Reb Zeira, it's not a problem. Reisha is Bishirayim, and Seifa, you know what's burnt? Not the whole thing, but Kaimitz. What's burnt? Kaimitz. In other words, I have a chelik of the two. So the Kamitza is the Seifa where it's something burning, that's the Kamitza that's burning. And the Reisha, that it's being divided by the Kahanim, it's eaten by the Kahanim. And you have a third thing besides Afitana and the leg shemen. Elul Abaya, who says it's totally burnt, kasha, the Reisha is shver. The Reisha says that what? That you do have a piece of the action, that the Kohanim do eat it. Says the Gemara, ton of Reisha to Seifa. we're really just learning the lashon of the reisha up to the seifa. In the seifa, we wanted to state that everything goes in the fire, but it's kedin aspa. Don't go ahead and make a diak that you could eat something because there's no such thing because it's all burnt. So Bishleim is Seifa Tani Mishum Reisha, El Reisha Mishum Seifa, Mitani. Usually the order is you learn two because of one, not because you learn one because of two. So in I'm my Rabba Tana Reisha Mishum Seifa. In Achinami, I can learn the Reisha that says that it misnadvin utter the Seifa that misnadvin utter that. So in other words, they each shall serve. They both heard Loit the man. This Machloikis Loit Reb Tarfon hold this in the Dava. Loit Reb Zeir it's a regular mincha. Loit Abaye it's like a mincha of a kohen. It's totally burnt. Tashma. Yayin Kediv Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva says you can make an adov of yayin. According to words of Rabbi Akiva, lisapolim. What do you do with this wine? So there were basins at the top of the mizbeach where you go ahead and you pour the wine down, then the sachim, and or water down. There were two holes there, and you pour it down. And shemen Kediv Reb Tarfin leishim. Shemen, according right, goes leishim, right? My lav midiyayin kul lisapolim shemen kula leishim. Shemen goes totally to the fire. So going back, guys, where Shmuel said that you make a minadava, and what do you do with it? The shemen, you put a kaimitz on, and you give the rest to the kahanim. Yeah, but we see over here we're comparing. In other words, we're comparing the machloikis of Reb Tarfin and Rabbi Akiva. Reb Tarfin saying, Rabbi Akiva saying that yayin goes totally to the basin. It must be shemen goes totally to the fire. Kasha on Shmuel who says that what? That like Reb Tarfin, you take a kaimitz. Says the Gemara, Midi area, kadisa. What? Vasket Miron, right? Why do you care? Yayin taka goes to the safo, and shirai and the mincha you have a kaimitz. The shemen you have a kaimitz, but you love dafka to say the shemen goes totally to the ishim. Kitanoi. Let's suggest that it's a machloikas tanoim. Just have to give me a second. So we have Shmuel saying that the Nedava of Tarfin is koimetz with shirayim, and we have other opinion. We have opinion of Abaya that the whole thing is burnt. The whole thing is burnt, right? Let's say it's a machloikas tanoim. Let's suggest lemikit tanoim. It's a machloikas tanoim. Shemen. How much shemen do you give? Le'yivsach miloik. If you give an adav of shemen, you don't give less than a loik. Rebbe says shloisha loigim, 3 loigim. Now, what's the machloikis? B'may kamiflaki. Amru gabana kamed Rav Tarfin. Now, doin mina vuki basra. Okay, outside. If you have a gezer shava of a hekesh and you learn one thing from the other, do you limit it to the thing you learn, or do you learn the whole kit and caboodle? In other words, I need something to learn from there. If I get that one thing, is that it? And I limit it to that? Or once I created that one thing, everything gets schlepped along. We've had this quite a few times. So now, Tanakama said 1 loig, and Rebbe said 3 loig. Let's see how this works. It could be nayo. The Rabban and Savri, the Rabban will say 1 loig, ma mincha misnadvin, av sheven misnadvin. Just like a mincha, you make an adava out, so too you can make an adava of shemen. Umina, and you continue to learn from mincha. Ma mincha like shemen, afkan like shemen, and you continue to learn. Uma mincha kainza, you do a kamitza v'shireha nechalim to the kahanim. Af shemen kainza v'shirav nechal. So Shmuel would hold in conjunction with the Rabbanan. Once you're learning shemen, you can make an adava of a mincha from mincha, go all the way down the line. Doik mina, umina, and continue. So I learn out A, shemen, B, amount, C, kaimetz, and D, shirayim goes to the kaim, of course, okay? The idach, and Rebbe says 3 loig, me mincha, he learns out from mincha, my mincha misnadvin, av shemen misnadvin. That's it. That's it. That's all he learns. That there's exists such an animal, exists such an oil, right? Exists such an oil, right? Such an oil exists. Yeah. Now, v'uki basra, but you keep it in the place. Kinesachim, manisachim shleisha loigim, af shemen shleisha loigim. Guys, you know there's a parsha of in Bamidbar Tesvav. There's a parsha of the Nesachim. So if you're, for example, hin chatzia hin, shlisha hin, revi'as hin. A hin is 12 loigin. A hin is 12 loigin. So for a par, you're going to bring half, which is 6. For an ayil, you're going to bring a third, which is 4. And for a keves, you're going to bring a quarter. A quarter of 12 is 3. You're going to be 3 loigen. So we find Shem in 3 loigen. So I learned out mincha. There's such a thing. There's a carbon. That's it. But for ukiya basra, I left it over there. I did not continue to learn from mincha. Right? I didn't continue to learn from mincha. So therefore, if I didn't continue to learn from mincha, what are you going to do with this oil? You're going to throw it totally on the fire. Guys, outside. Outside. We're suggesting that Shmuel's din is a machlokes tanayim. Right? What's Shmuel's din? That the dover you bring, you're going to do a kemitza, put it on the fire, and eat the rest. Now, it makes a lot of sense. If the Chachamim hold 1 and Rebbe holds 3, that this is what the machlokes is dependent upon. They're both agreeing that you learn from mincha. What do you learn from mincha? That there's such a thing called a nedava of shemen. There's such a thing called a nedava of shemen. Great. Now, will I continue to learn from mincha? Says the Tanakama, yes. So just like I'll learn from mincha, right? I'll continue to learn from mincha. Mincha is a loig, great. Mincha is a loig is great. Mincha is kemitza, great. Mincha is shrine to kanim, great. Klimetz goes on the fire, great. That's it. That's Shmuel. Comes along the Chacham, Rebbe, no, 3. I know there's such a thing as an adov of shemen. Where do I learn it from? Mincha. But that's all I learn. Doik mina, v'uki basra, that's it. Now I go back to the world of shemen. Why do I find the world of shemen? I find by the Zevachim, the least amount you can bring is 3 loigim. But I don't learn that it's like a carbon mincha, you burn it. I just learn the amount. I just learned there's such a thing. Memela, if you're learning there's just such a thing, you don't know there's a din of what? Of putting it on the fire. Excuse me, of kmitza. And Memela, what do you do with the whole thing? The shemen, you don't throw it down the chute, you threw it on the fire. So like Shmuel holds like the Tanakama, and those who disagree hold like Rebbe. That's Gishma. Okay. Only a Pabla Abaya. Imi mincha maisila, if the source for the nedava of mincha was a carbon mincha, that you can, source of shemen, that you can bring a nedava of shemen is mincha, Rebbe, Rebbe, imi mincha maisila Rebbe, the kuli alma doin mina umina. If Rebbe learned out from mincha, he would also learn there's a kaimitz, he would also learn that it's mutter the kahanim, if that was the source. El Rebbe me Ezrach. Rebbe never learned out from mincha at all. He learned it kol Ezrach yase kacha. He learned it out directly from the Zevachim. El Rebbe me Ezrach gamala. He learned it directly from the Zevachim. Just like a person can bring the Zevachim, so too a person can bring a shemen. Good? But therefore it had no shaykhs to mincha whatsoever. The male had no shaykhs to mincha, it's directly to 3 loigin. So it's no, it's not a machloikis tanoyim by mincha, the limud. Again, it comes out lamaisa. You also, if you learn that from the Zevachim, you get just like the Zevachim is totally the Zevachim b'fnei atzmai is totally put on the mizbeach and the sapolim. So too the shemens can be totally on the fire. Just the machloikas is the source. The source is not mincha according to Rav Papa. The source is called Ezra the Zevachim himself. Rav Papa mimatzas amid hachi. How could you say that Rebbe learned it out from the Zevachim and not from mincha? Vatanya carbon mincha. It says carbon mincha. The extra word is carbon. Malame shem is nadvin shemen. You make a nedava of shemen. The kama, and how much is that? Is shleish loigin. Now it says, guys, it says the lashon of what? Of mincha, and it says 3 loigin. Man shamalei dama shleish loigin rebihi. V'kamaisi lami carbon, and he brings it out from carbon mincha. He doesn't bring it out from Ezrach, guys. He doesn't bring it out from the Zevachim. He brings it out from mincha. It's dacharaya. That's a source, and therefore the machlokes is doin mina. Or doin mina umina, and you continue to learn, like we first learned in the first place. So later, Papa said, Tanya. If you have such a bais, you have such a bais, I can't argue on it. So I can't say that he learned it from the Zevachim, he must have learned it from Mincha. So Yitzmid Varenu, Rabbi Tarfon says there is a carbon called a carbon nedava of shemen. Do you go ahead and put a kaimitz amata the kahanim? Shmuel says yes. Other people say Baya, where he learned says no, and the source is Mincha. Amar Shmuel, Hamisnada Yayin. You go ahead and make an adava of Yayin. Yeah, I'm going to bring a libation of Yayin. Maybe you bring it. Umizalfoy al gabi ishim. And what you do is you spritz it onto the fire. You spritz it onto the fire. Let's see the Yudalid in the Shita. Ha'ishim. Dafka nisachim haba b'fnei atzmai. That's dafka if you're going to bring a nesach by itself. Do you put it on the fire? Am nisachim haboy beglal hazevach. But the nisachim that come with the zevach, einim izalfin. That you don't go ahead and put on the fire. Dichsiv b'hu hasech nesach shecha umash maloshin sevia v'shichrus. You want the mizbeach to be drunk. V'zeu kishnasan l'sapolim. That's when you put it in the basin. Okay, we'll see that in a second. So there's Hashem. So the Shita is providing us this din of yayin that goes in the fire is only when you bring a nesech by itself. If you bring a korban and it's a kavli by the sachim, those nesachim are going to go down the holes on the mizbeach. There's holes on the mizbeach; it will go down the holes. My time. Well, what's the reason it goes on the fire? Omakra. It says v'yayin takriv l'nesech chatzi ahin isherech l'chorech l'Hashem. So you have obviously yayin that's makriv. It should be an ishe on the fire reich l'chorech l'Hashem. Now you have a problem, guys. You're putting on the fire v'michba kivoy, right? Or v'michba. You're putting out the fire. There's an issa of putting out the fire in the mizbeach, fellas. You're not allowed to put the fire on the mizbeach. Not a Shabbos tikadin, mizbeach tikadin. It has to be lit the whole time. So you're putting out the fire in the mizbeach. Says the Gemara, by putting out a little wine, you're not putting out everything. Kiboy mixes leishmei kiboy. If you put out a little bit, that's not considered kiboy, and you won't be over the issa. Ini is really so that kiboy mixes is not putting out the fire. Someone takes a coal off the mizbeach, the kiboy and he puts it out. Chayev. He'd be chayiv for putting out the Eish on the Mizbeach. It's only part of the fire. Says the Gemara, the Lek Elohai. It's a tough day. The Mizbeach's out. This is the only thing that's left. You have this little, I could zetz ein that this is speaking where this is the only game in town. Mamela you be chayiv for putting out the fire. But Einachinami, if it be existing fire and you put out this coal, you would not be chayiv for putting out the fire because kiboy mixes leish me kiboy. Iboy you say, Ema, another teretz. Kiboy the mitzvah shine. Kiboy the mitzvah would be different. Kiboy the mitzvah would be different. Okay, since kiboy the mitzvah would be different. In other words, this is what I would have answered. You're not allowed to put the fire in the mizbeach, but if the Torah tells you to put the fire, the wine on, you put the wine on. Tashma, the Tanya. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, klape since shenas the Torah litroim, since the Torah permitted trumas hadeshen. Right now, when you're going to put the trumas hadeshen, you're going to go ahead and could you put out a coal? Yachal yachbe v'yitroim. I might think you put out the coal and take it. Amir lo yichbe. You shouldn't do it. So 1 second. You're going to do trumas hadeshen. You take a shovel. You go ahead and cook shtup the sarayim, and you're going ahead back and forth, right? And can you put it out? No. But 1 second, you only bring out little one. If you're telling me kibbutz mixes nothing, why can't I put it out, right? The chayr is a raya that you got a problem. So why isn't it a problem spritzing wine on the mizbeach? Says the Gemara, shiny hasam efsha di yosef v'notar. It's different over there. It's possible to go ahead and wait. It's possible over there. In other words, einachinami. To put it, if I can't avoid it, kibbutz b'miksash lo yishmei kibbutz. On the other hand, if I could avoid it, right? Wait. So you have this, you put it in, wait till it goes out. You don't have to go ahead and put it out. Okay, I think we'll stop over here. It gets involved with the Hilchos Shabbos. I want to do a better job.